It's Too Many Men on the Mic, presented by Netfront LLC. Now here's Coach Drew and Coach Jared.
Let it play on, man. Let it play on. Well, welcome to Too Many Men on the Mic, and I hate to go against our announcers, the all-knowing announcer, but it is only Coach Jared this week.
Yeah.
Coach Drew is on assignment, as they like to say in the biz. I think it's called on assignment, right?
Yeah, he's on assignment. That's the professional term.
He's checking out youth hockey rinks in the winter months down in Santiago, Chile.
See,
Patagonia world.
what you're supposed to do, though, when you tell someone's on assignment, that's where you leave it.
Oh,
They
he's
don't
on,
need to know.
he's on assignment.
Yeah.
He's on assignment. Yeah. That's like code for he's been suspended. Well, folks, thanks for joining Too Many Men on the Mic. This is we've hit just past the year anniversary. This show started, our first show was June 5th, 2025. It is now June 30th, 2026. We've got over 54 episodes in the bank, as I like to say. And Grant, I think what an opportune time to take a look back at some of our best interviews and episodes, and we're going to do a best of for the next 2 weeks. And the first show today, we're going to recap 6 cool episodes that we've done in the first half of our journey last year. And we think that our audience it's gonna be nice vacation listening, as many of these folks are heading out of town, hopefully to much cooler hunting grounds than here in St. Louis right now. I think we touched 99 today and about 99% humidity.
It's hot.
It's hot. In
As
fact,
someone who golfed last Sunday,
oof.
it's hot.
Well, last Sunday was brutal too.
This
with
Sunday,
the humidity. Yeah. So yeah. So we at the Ballant Casa, which is one of the names of my Wi-Fi, Ballant Casa. Ooh, but yeah, it's spelled differently. You'll never figure it out. We had all of a sudden at about 1:00 in the afternoon, noticed the air coming out of the vents it's just blowing. It's just blowing. So we've got a ranch that has that's built into a hill. So our finished basement goes out into our garage, and there's an air conditioning unit that's for the basement. That one's 20 years old, working like a charm. There's an AC unit in the attic that's only 6 years old, and so I'm like, God, I gotta go up in the attic and just gotta do my thing. So I go up into the attic. Yeah, that was really, really is outside the house and probably 115 degrees in the attic. And tried to do a little reset, and then went back outside, and the unit's you can hear it trying to kick on. So I go online to Hoffman Brothers. No free ads, but I'm going to shout out Hoffman Brothers here. Next available service appointment. Take a guess, Grant.
July 14th.
Ooh, well, not that bad. July 8th. So over a week out. And my wife, Mrs. Balance, just looking at me going, this is not going to work. And I'm like, oh, it's fine. We've got these AC units. The basement's so super cool. I get a text from Hoffman Brothers saying, hey, Mr. Ballant, I should just ask if they would have called me coach. That'd been great. But they just said, Mr. Ballant, is everything okay? Is it it's super hot. How would you like if we come out tomorrow at between noon and 4? I was like, before I even read it, I was typing yes.
Yeah.
So
please.
shout out Hoffman Brothers. Sounds like we're only going to be down, first world problems here. But you think about it, there's a lot of folks who are struggling with the heat right now in St. Louis. And so, hopefully everybody finds a cool, dry place to be, plenty of water. And, but yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to Hoffman Brothers as a local St. Louis heating and cooling institution. So I think they sponsor the Blues too. So we'll probably have to talk to them about that, or maybe the Cardinals.
They merge with the hockey. That's how you tie it in.
So Grant, what's new with you here before we get started on this best of?
Not too much. Been watching a lot of the USA. They will have played their game by the time this comes out. So
That's right.
hopefully they are advancing to the next round.
So they've got Bosnia-Herzegovina, right?
Yes.
And then if they win that, they're most likely playing Belgium.
Yeah, either Belgium or Senegal. I think Senegal is going to beat Belgium, actually. So
that's like, didn't everybody think that Japan was going to beat Brazil, or like Japan was going to give Brazil a little bit of a handful?
Yeah, I mean, they lost 2-1. That was
Isn't that like losing 5-1 in hockey?
No, Brazil scored in the last kick of the game. Same thing, yeah.
35 minutes left in the game was the last kick.
Yeah, true.
No, it's super cool. It's funny because my older son is getting together with his buddies. They were out last night at B-Dubs. Again, no free ads, but shout out B-Dubs. Watching some of the World Cup games. And even if you're not like a fan of soccer, it's just a cool event, cool spectacle. And it looks like they're doing it up right for the most part.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were worried about the 48 teams because they expanded. It's been great. I mean, especially hosted here. It's been so cool to see our stadiums doing this, like at this grand of tournament. So it's been really fun. Hopefully, U.S. keeps winning.
So Arrowhead's done now, right? No more at Arrowhead.
One more game.
They have one more game?
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. So it's in New York, where the Giants and Jets play, right? That's like the main one. Is that the final?
Mm-hmm.
And then SoFi.
Yep.
And then Mexico City.
Yep. They have some games.
Where are they playing in Canada? Is it at
Canada was BC Place in Vancouver and Toronto.
So Toronto, were they playing where the Argonauts play?
No, they were playing where just the Toronto FC plays. They like brought in temporary stands to make it like 40,000 seater instead of like 26.
Yeah. Canada's soccer's gotten much better too.
Yeah.
Yeah. They made the round of 32.
Yeah, they won their first game. They're in the round of 16.
Ooh. So US plays Wednesday.
Yes.
So we'll be a day into the round of potentially 16 to see if they're in there. So so talk to me about this like the 48 teams. What was it usually?
32.
So it goes 32 to 16?
It would go 32 and then 16 would qualify out of the group in the old format. Now 32 make the knockout.
Gotcha. So it was 32. So basically 8 groups of 4.
Yes.
2 from each group.
Mm-hmm.
16. 8 times 2, math's undefeated.
There you go.
And then you basically have to win 4 games
to win.
So it's like kind of like the Stanley Cup, kind of like the rounds of the Stanley. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And so now you have to win 5 games.
Yeah.
And they space these games out like it's like football season, right? American.
Yeah, they had been spacing them out a week, but now it's only 4 or 5 days for most teams once the knockout stage starts picking up. So it'll go pretty quick because the group stage took 19 days to finish, and they'll play 5 games in 19 days now.
Gotcha.
So they went from playing 3 in almost 3 weeks to now 5 in 19 days.
Gotcha. Well, I'm fascinated by just like any international type of game. I mean, the Olympics this year with Team USA winning both, men and women's at the Milano Cortina Olympics, and then winning sled hockey. Wouldn't it be something if they pulled off just a unbelievable, I mean, it would be the upset of all time, wouldn't it?
Yeah, this would be, the world would burn. I don't think it would be as big of an upset as the Miracle on Ice, just because like every single player on the United States team they're a lot closer to the top than the USA team was to the Soviets. But it would definitely be the biggest, like, just obviously it's the World Cup, but I wouldn't say it'd be like the most surprising. I think the Miracle on Ice tops anything.
What country should feel the most pressure right now? I keep hearing England, and I say that not just because we just had Adam Gledhill on last week, but I actually was watching on Sunday. England was playing Panama, and everybody's just like, I would have thought that England was already knocked out and didn't make the round to 32 the way the announcers were talking. But they won their group. So I mean, who's under the most pressure? It's usually like England, Spain. France is like the prohibitive favorite, aren't they?
Yeah, France is the favorite, but like the word pressure is different because like France won it in 2018. Like losing it would be bad because I think it's their best team probably ever. But like the most pressure is always going to be Brazil and England. Because England,
England never wins though.
But
they're like the Knicks until this year, right?
Yeah, they're like the New York Knicks. It's like the Knicks are the Cowboys, really. Like they won in 1966. They've won all these. Their fan base is huge, but they can't win.
England is like the Toronto Maple Leafs of the World Cup. 1967 was the last time the Maple Leafs won. And like their fan base is just like crazy.
Yeah.
But
they can't win. I'd say England, I would compare to the Knicks and the Maple Leafs. I would compare Brazil to the Cowboys.
Gotcha.
Who doesn't love Brazil? You know how the Cowboys are America's team? Everyone loves watching.
I don't know. I think a lot of people don't like the Cowboys. A lot of people.
But I'm saying they're America's team. Like there's a lot of bandwagon fans. There's a lot of Brazil is probably the most pressure packed for when they don't win. They hear it the most.
They have maybe not the best of all time, but the most impactful player of all time is Brazilian, right? It's Pele, right?
Yeah,
he's the most impactful player in soccer ever.
Probably,
I just love the announcers when they're like saying "have it" and "oh, what effort," and it's just like it's just so cool.
You're falling in love with the English commentary.
Absolutely. It's so cool. I kind of want to be like, if I'm watching hockey, like have it.
Imagine the English hockey coach. That's what I would want.
Well, England has a league.
Yeah, they do.
It's a professional league. It's kind of, I would say it would probably be on par talent wise with probably a step or two below the ECHL. Yeah. Which is like the third level league here in the United States behind the NHL and the AHL. So it's probably like, I would say it's probably like NCAA Division 3, maybe ACHA Division 1.
Wouldn't you say there's
some former NHL players? I would just say the pace of the game. The pace.
Yeah.
The overall pace and talent.
It's a little bit of a retirement league as well. They'll pay NHL players who might
good
be
living.
They'll pay them some good money to come play.
Cool
They'll
living.
pay them money they can't say no to in the moment to go play.
Yeah, and you're in like it's like I know they have the different tiers in England as far as their football teams are concerned. It's kind of like you're competing with like the third tier football team. But yeah, so let's hop right into the first episode that we're going to do a best of, and this goes back to really I would say this is the most impactful and influential episode that Too Many Men on the Mic ever had. This was where we established our credibility, and it's when we had our first interaction with USA Hockey, and we welcomed Bob Mancini, who is Drew likes to call him the godfather of fun of USA Hockey, but I mean, Bob Mancini's done it all, and now he is the assistant director of player development for all of USA Hockey. So that is from the Olympics on down. But he really focuses in on the U18s, the U17s, and then youth hockey. And he had some great insight for us, and really set the tone for our show. And he helped launch this relationship, and we're forever going to be grateful to Bob. Hopefully we'll have him on again for a year anniversary. But let's go ahead and cut over to this happened back in July of 2025, where Drew and I sat down with Bob Mancini and talked a lot about USA Hockey, the developmental path, and really how to continue to grow this game and develop young players of all skills. Have a listen.
Well, I think now is a great time to bring on Bob and Grant. If you can, let's bring on Bob. Hey, Bob, how are you? Great to see you.
Great to see you, Jared. Drew, I'm happy to be on. I'm going to have to ask you, I've been listening in, and Drew especially, just going to have to talk up just a little bit. I'm in I'll tell you, and this is the fear that everybody should have when they have me on, because, you may only get one question, right? Because I'm going to speak for 19 minutes, but I'm up here in the north. I just left our player development camp in Buffalo, our select 15s. And in order to get back home in Michigan now, I have to go through Canada. So I'm not 100% sure, but I think they're trying to interfere with this broadcast, Hockey Canada. I'm sure they're behind this. I'm absolutely positive that they're behind this.
Absolute enemy territory, especially if you're in Hamilton. And those Tiger fans in Hamilton are pretty vicious. So
That's right.
well, Bob, I think that's a great segue because you are a world traveler. You were in Europe earlier this year. You're doing so much in support of our great sport for this great country. And I think Drew and I firsthand can just, we've seen the impact over the last 10 years that we've been, diving into coaching and still playing. But if we look ahead to this year, what are you most excited for USA Hockey, for our players and coaches here in 25 and 26? Let's dive right in.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things. First of all, the start of a new season brings with it all the joy and all the expectations that we all have, right? Adult players, youth players, coaches, officials, right? Every single avenue of our sport, every single portion of our hockey development department is excited for the season, right? Because it's a clean slate without, it's that fresh sheet of ice, and no one knows what's going to happen, but we all get reborn, right? There's a rebirth that happens every year. So, in general, I think that excitement is within us all, right? I mean, but if you got to go specific, I think on the coaching side, we're launching our first ever 6U, 8U clinics, age-appropriate clinics, right? Which is a brand new direction for our coaching education program. And it's exciting for a number of reasons. One is we're moving closer to age-appropriate clinics. So when we talk to our coaches who are coaching 6U, 8U, learn to play, learn to skate, are going to get a more focused experience. And that's really, really important. So that's probably one of the most exciting things we're doing. And because of that, the rest of our coaching education program will also become more age appropriate. So, you'll take your 6U, 8U level anytime you're coaching 8U and below, but you don't have to move up to level 1 anymore until you get to the 9U category or the 10U category, right? So the way our program works right now, it's very much focused on what should a 9U and 10U coach be focused on, be concentrating on. And now with the addition of 6U, 8U, it's going to move that progression of taking one clinic per year, and it's going to make more sense to our coaches. So from a coaching education standpoint, that's really exciting. I think, from a player development standpoint, we talk all the time, good coach development is good player development, right? You can't have good player development without good coach development. So, both those things go hand in hand. And then probably the other thing is, and we don't talk about it enough, is our officiating program. And I'm excited that this year our officiating program, we're going to introduce follow-up clinics to make our young officials more aware on the ice, to make them more agile, more mobile, more coordinated, much like we do with our young players, because a lot of our officials are young, and we're going to give them more support. So we have follow-up clinics, we have skating clinics, we're going to have mentorship opportunities, and we're going to have shadow opportunities for our youngest officials. So I know you thought you asked me a short question, but there's so much for us that we're excited about going into this season.
Well, that is outstanding. I love the breakdown into 6U, Bob. I love the officiating focus. I have a son that's going off to college, and I have been encouraging him to become an official. So that is outstanding.
Which also encourages him to get off the acre payroll as quickly as possible for those weekend expenditures.
That's exactly right. But a lot in there, Bob. What can the youth hockey organizations be doing, in your opinion, to help grow the game?
Well, it's a great question. And we've had some programming for years, right? We've had some of our initiation programs. We have things like that. We now have a wonderful try goalie for free direction. Those is we need to look at what can we do to make people feel comfortable when they come in the rink, right? What can we do to make the rink a more welcoming environment, right? When we're talking about hockey and when you're talking about the second and third generational hockey players, this stuff, we know this stuff, right? We're not intimidated by coming to the rink. We have so many new families enjoying hockey for the first time, so many new generations of players enjoying hockey for the first time. I often think, what can we do to make that experience more comfortable? Are we welcoming these people? Do we have ambassadors, right? Are we teaching young, brand new parents, hey, let me help you put on the skates. Let me help you with the equipment, right? And then you look at goaltenders, right? That's overwhelming when we players want to become goaltenders, right? How many times have you seen goaltending of young goaltenders with parents who are new to the sport not knowing which leg the leg pads go on?
Yep.
Right? So sometimes it can be the littlest thing that we can do to welcome new families into our game. And then, that pays dividends down the road so many times, because then they'll want to give back. And, I go back to that 6U8U thing I talked about. By having a separate clinic for 6U8U coaches, I believe we're going to get more parents involved. Parents who want to enjoy the journey with their son and daughter.
Absolutely.
And if we can get them to see how exciting it is to be part of that journey, I think they'll want to be level ones and they'll want to be level twos. They're not going to stop just at 6U and 8U.
It's so
agree.
true. 100%. And it's funny because there was one of my son's coaches was a non-hockey player. And yet, as I got to know him and as he really just embraced the sport, he won multiple, our Blue Note Cup, for our youth hockey championship at different age levels, and was just immersed himself in it. And, I thought to myself, if you could get a person who's never, been around our sport or been playing our sport and was new to it because their son or daughter started to play, and they could become an evangelist. I love the fact that many of these parents who start off as youth coaches kind of get voluntold, they become adult hockey players because they just love it so much, and that's what's going to help us grow this sport, exponentially, I think. So
I love it. Oh, sorry, Drew, go ahead.
Yeah, just for reference, just to add on to that, this adult men's jersey I'm wearing, the team I'm on, we actually have 3 guys that got into hockey that had never played before, but they got into it because their son or daughter had been on a hockey team, and they made the effort to go out and learn how to skate and learn how to play. So it's contagious.
It is, and we never know what that's going to be, right? We never know what that spark's going to be. It could be parent to son or daughter, could be the other way around. My dad never played hockey. He played street hockey in the courtyards and the schoolyards in Brooklyn. He tells me the story all the time. He's 92, God bless him, and he still talks about his time with a stickball stick. That was their hockey sticks, and a little Spalding ball in the courtyards in Brooklyn. But his love of the game got passed on to me. You look at so many things, and I love that, the idea of a spark, because that's why what we do is so important. We don't know what it is, right? It's that NHL player who stops to sign an autograph. It's the college hockey player who has time to go out and get on the ice with a youth organization, right? We're so lucky to be involved in the sport we're in, because everybody can be that spark in some way. I really like that take.
I think that encapsulates everything and why we're doing this, Bob. And I can't thank you enough for saying that so eloquently. Let's focus on the players here for a second, because you are assistant director for player development for USA Hockey, and one of the things we like to share with our players are different tidbits. Maybe not necessarily things that are on the ice although habits and making sure that you're physically prepared to play is huge. But what are some successful traits common traits that successful players seem to have in your experience that can set them apart from their peers?
It's interesting because it goes right back to what we were talking about. The best players love the game. They love being at the rink. They love being in the locker room, and too often we sometimes inadvertently drag that love away from them, or we squash that love, right? Because I go back to and none of us, I don't think, are perfect parents, and I certainly wasn't, but I remember when my son was very young, and I didn't know enough of youth hockey, right? I was coaching at the highest levels, and at this time I was with the Edmonton Oilers. I was the director of player development, and I remember my son just getting into it, and all he wanted to do was go down and play. Dad, let's play. And I kept wanting him to learn how to shoot. Let me show you how to shoot. Let me show you how to pass. Let me do that. And 30 seconds, Dad, let's play. Right? He just wanted to play. And it hit me that that's really what was important then. And from that point on, and then I moved to USA Hockey, and I learned about age-appropriate training. And I tell you, the one thing, and yeah, I can give you some hints about, I had a parent come up to me and say, "Oh, my son loves the game. He goes to skating lessons 5 a.m. every day before school." The kid was 6. And I asked the dad, I said, "So was it your son's idea? Did he call the rink and ask if he could get private lessons at 6, 8, right?" Like, "Oh, well, no, I have to do that for him." Well, yeah, we find ways to beat the love out of the game from our kids, right? Instead of finding a way to give them passion. And I remember, I go back to that story with my son, and it hit me. Oh my gosh, right? Just go play with him. Just go play, right? And then I heard Mike Boyle talk, and he talked about, the what is it, the ADD, AHD Olympics, right? We learn when we have kids at a young age. When we go out to the backyard, the first time parent, you go out with a baseball and a glove and a bat. And then you realize 30 seconds in, now they want to go play basketball. And another 40 seconds, they want the soccer ball, right? And in a couple of weeks now, when you go out in the backyard to play with your son or daughter, you got everything. You got arms full of every piece of equipment you can. Well, it's the same thing.
Yard sale.
And it's the same thing. Like, we have to stop adultifying young kid hockey and putting what we think is fun onto the children. Instead, we need to ask the kids, we need to embrace them, and we need to see, like I say, a good, you're on the ice with 6 and on the players, you got kids over in the corner doing snow angels, right? And the difference between a good coach and a great coach at that age is the good coach goes over and says, "Whoa, that's a great snow angel." The great coach gets on the ice and starts doing snow angels with them, right? Yes. And this isn't probably where you wanted this to go, but
no, it's perfect.
I think fun, engagement, and passion. And how do we do that? And we do it with engaging practices. We do it with having the kids find the things that the kids want to do and then give it to them, right? The races, the tag games, the scrimmages, right? Because, mostly we let kids at a young age scrimmage. It's going to be a better practice than anything you or the 3 of us are going to draw up because they're engaged in it, right? We'll get to that stuff later. And so the season's starting. Let's keep it fun, right? Or a better word is let's keep it engaged. Let's ask the kids what we want, and let's educate the parents that fun doesn't mean goofing off. Fun means how do we find a way to engage the kids so when they get in the car, the first thing they say to mom and dad is, "I can't wait to go back to hockey."
Whenever you hear Bob Mancini talk as a hockey coach, hockey player, or parent, it's a great listen. One of the things that he said that always sits with me is he talks about the difference between a good coach and a great coach. And it resonates so well with me when he says things like, if you're coaching, 10U or 8U players and you see him doing snow angels on the ice, he's always like, the good coach goes over there and taps his stick and says, hey, that's a great snow angel. But the great coach gets on the ice and starts doing snow angels with the kids. And those are the type of memories and those are the types of feelings that keep these kids engaged with the sport and really looking up to their coaches. And it creates just a great culture. And that's how we're going to grow this sport. And, that's how we're going to get to a point here in the next 10 years, 7 to 10 years, where the USA Hockey and American-born hockey players are going to be the dominant force within, the NHL and beyond. So just a phenomenal interview, and we cannot be more grateful to Bob for opening up not only his time, but the resources that he has at his disposal with USA Hockey. Every single month since that interview we did with Bob, we've had an expert at different aspects of USA Hockey has come on and helped us talk about development, growing the game, and it's just been fantastic. From one Bob to another Bob, we're going to move this next clip is with Bob Jakubeck, who at the time was the head coach for the 18U Afton Central States hockey team. It was a very poignant episode for us. For those of you who are in the St. Louis area, you know that in November of 2024, we lost just a phenomenal young man named Colin Brown. A tragic incident that occurred on his way home from a hockey game. And, we felt, Drew and I, that, time had passed where it was important for Too Many Men on the Mic as a forum for Bob and Colin's family to talk about Colin's legacy and specifically about the 72 Acts of Kindness initiative that Colin's family is right now neck deep in making sure that Colin's legacy lives on and creates a great environment and culture, not just for youth hockey, but for all of St. Louis. And so we were honored to be able to sit down with Bob Jakubeck. He opened up his heart and really showed the meaning of compassion and what truly goes into great coaching. It's not always about X's and O's. In fact, most of the time it's not. Most of the time it's about the connection that you as a coach or as coaches form with their players. And it also serves as a key reminder to players that, the relationship goes two ways. And sometimes as a player, you don't even realize how much you are touching the life of your coach and coaches. And so definitely a great episode. I think we treated it with the utmost respect, and we felt that this was definitely worthy to be on a best of for Too Many Men on the Mic for this past year, as we continue to honor Colin Brown's legacy every day. Have a listen.
Okay, well, starting with the hat, after Brownie's passing, one of my high school classmates reached out to me. He had lost a daughter. She was killed in a car accident when she was at Ole Miss. So news like this hits home, and that's the message I've gotten from a lot of people who've reached out to me. Strangers have reached out to me who've lost friends, who've lost kids. Well, this hit home to my classmate, and he wanted to do something for our group. So we had 23 of these made, and it's got the 72, which is Brownie's number, in the middle with wings around the outside, and we all the players, all the coaches have them, and it's a very special, meaningful hat. I actually have I don't know if you can see this. I got a tattoo with the
nice.
Same.
There you go.
Yeah, and my assistant coaches did the same thing. We all went together. Even though I'm a hockey player, I'm not big on pain. So this was I was frightened, and
how long did that take, Bob?
It took about a half hour. It felt like 3.
Yeah.
Well, here we are sitting around and we're talking about this young man and we're joking and we're smiling. So if that's not a great way to start talking about this legacy man has left for us, I don't know what is. dive right into it, Bob. Tell us a little bit about Brownie as a teammate, as a player, how he was, and then obviously we can lead into like really the tragedy and how you led this group of young men and help them grow and help this community grow.
Yeah. Okay. So I coached. I coached Brownie for 2 years when I was asked to take on this very talented 2008 birth year group. I didn't know much about them, so the organization graciously flew me out to Denver to watch the team play at nationals. Their 14U Eagles team had qualified for nationals, so I got a chance to go out there. And it was a very successful group. So it was, to be honest, it was a group that probably wasn't looking for change. They had a lot of success. And they hear some new guy, some old guy is coming in to replace, all of their 30-something-year-old coaches or 20, young guys.
Right.
And so I got a chance to go out there and meet all the players, all the families, and including Brownie. And the thing that struck me about Brownie just the moment that I met him was just the genuineness, the politeness. What a great young man that he was. And, to be honest, my first thought was, gosh, I hope he wants to stick around and play for me, because I, really feel like I could build a team around a kid like that. So, I had a chance.
And that was really with limited viewing of his skating. I get what I'm hearing you saying is what attracted to you was he was a good person.
Yeah, I had limited viewing of his skating. To be honest, all those players were perfectly qualified to be on my team.
Right.
But I'm also looking for character people. That's who we built our team around. And he was Exhibit A in character. And
Bob, was he a vocal guy? Was he a lead by example kind of guy?
He was more lead by example until something pissed him off, and he needed to do something. That's one of the things I loved about him. He wasn't getting in people's ears. He was more uplifting and primarily just led by the way that he played. He played a disciplined game. He played a very competitive game. He was a fierce competitor. He wasn't losing many puck battles in the corners, but yeah, every once in a while, he'd get a little fired up, and to be honest, he was usually spot on when he was fired up. And
Jared, I didn't have the chance to coach him, so you guys are closer to this than me. Bob, was he a forward or was he a defenseman?
He's a defenseman.
Oh, okay.
Right up your alley, Drew. Drew's a D guy by
heart. I like him already.
Yeah. He plays a heavy game. He's fast. I would say more defensive oriented, but he could get up the ice and join the play, and good foot speed. Just a really good, solid all around player.
We're sitting here, three of us coaches, who probably between the three of us have damn near close to 100 years of coaching experience. That's maybe not that big of an example.
Wow,
actually, it's not
that big. Old.
For the players out there, because again, on this show, we want to look at this from all lenses. Parents, coaches, players. You didn't hear once from Coach Jakubeck that he was this dynamo player. What you heard was, and what I tell all the kids who I coach as they're going to try out for these club teams, is the character, the confidence, but really a good teammate. And I tell my players who I coach at high school level and even my own sons, have that character, walk into the rink, introduce yourself to the coach, make it that you're respectful, that you care about your teammates. That's the key, because as you said, Bob, all those kids can play. And as you continue to age and get into that 14, 15, 16, 18U, most kids can play.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be a good person first. And I think that's what's critical about this story today, and a lot of the lessons that people who didn't even know Brownie can take from this. So that's a great point I want to make sure we mention.
Bob, we talk a lot about brand, whether it's a hockey club or a hockey player. And just out of curiosity, can you talk a little bit about Brownie's brand from your view?
You know, he's just authentic. He's hardworking. And you guys know this as a coach. All you can really ask for is to know what you're going to get from a player day in and day out. He's that player. Hopefully as kids get older, the variances in their play from game to game, get a little bit tighter. His was razor thin. It's just we knew what we were going to get from him, and that's a tough, hard-nosed game. He was going to play discipline. He was going to play smart. He was going to play a team game, and I don't know how to summarize that in one word, but
consistency is what I'm hearing. Consistency is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
He had he was able to get his game. He knew what his game was, and he played that game each time he played.
He did. Yeah.
We've got a good foundation on Brownie as a player, Brownie as a young man. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about that awful tragedy and really how Bob, you as a leader and as an inspiration to these kids, helped to lead this team through things. But before we do that, let's have a word from one of our sponsors, Big Bear. Drew, you want to jump into that, or do you want me to take it?
Absolutely. This segment of Too Many Men on the Mic is brought to you by Big Bear Tournaments, your go-to for unforgettable youth hockey travel experiences. Big Bear hosts top-tier tournaments in some of the coolest hockey towns across North America. And one of the most popular early season events is Filling Quickly, which is the Peachtree Showdown in Atlanta, Georgia, the weekend of September 19th through 21st. Limited space remains at 10U through 18U. Register today at bigbeartournaments.com. And here's the best part. The first team to apply for this event, email sales@bigbeartournaments.com, will be chosen to receive a special gift package to get their team ready for the upcoming season. Again, that is sales@bigbeartournaments.com after registering for Peachtree Showdown. Plan your next great hockey trip at bigbeartournaments.com. And don't forget to tell them Too Many Men on the Mic sent you.
And we're back to Too Many Men on the Mic here. We're joined by Coach Bob Jakubeck of the Central States Afton 18U team. Bob's joining us today to honor the legacy and talk about the impact that Colin Brown had on not just his team, his family, and the Afton Americans, but the youth hockey or community as a whole in St. Louis. Bob, it's tough to remember back to this, but if I can ask you to take us back to that night in November in 2024 when, of all things, coming back from a hockey game, just a random act and just a terrible tragedy occurs. As a coach, as a father, as a man, share with us a little bit about what went through your mind and just how you cope with that and how you, not just for your own self and your own, mental and emotional health, but you're responsible for these other 19 young men. Talk about that if you can.
Yeah, I mean,
And we're all going to be leaking today too, so let's not fool ourselves. So it's okay.
November 23rd, I'll never forget the date. Coincidentally, it was my wedding anniversary. I'm not sure we'll celebrate our anniversary again on November 23rd, but I got the call from Calvin that night. I had gone to the CBC Marquette hockey game. The game ended about 9:30. I went home right after the game. About 10:30, I'm getting ready to go to bed. We're playing Littleton the next morning. And I was in the kitchen, turning the lights off, checking everything, and come back, and I got a missed call from Calvin, of all people. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, did Brownie get hurt today? What happened?
Right.
I mean, not on my worst nightmares. Could I have imagined what he was going to tell me? And second of all, why are you calling me? I mean, that just shows you the Brown family and the type of people they are. He wanted to make sure that Brownie's coach knew what was going on. He thought we were going to play a hockey game the next morning. There was no way we were going to play a hockey game. To be honest, we had no idea what was going to happen with our season.
Right.
We talked about it. I told the boys, let's meet at the rink. We met at the rink. There were lots of hugs. There was lots of I love yous. There was, 16-year-old kids. 16-year-old kids. I mean, they're one of their best friends just got shot. One of their teammates, one of their leaders on their team. But not only that, I mean, these are 16-year-old kids being exposed to something that no 16-year-old kid should ever have to be exposed to. And, that's their own mortality. So it was tough. And, the tough thing is, there's no playbook for this. Kids
right.
are all grieving in different manners. Some kids are shutting down. Some kids are just flowing like waterworks. And it's just like that old adage, you don't coach any two kids the same way. It's sort of the same thing with this. It's, everybody's dealing with this in different ways.
Bob, I heard you just say that there's not a playbook for this. And that's kind of what was going through my head as I was listening to you talk. And I love that you said, let's meet at the rink. After the hugs, after the teammates seeing each other, the families seeing each other, can you share, was there an opportunity where a couple players stepped up and said something, or was that your opportunity as the coach to then stand up and share a message with the team? How did that go?
Yeah, I mean, not immediately. I think the kids were all in shock. They were in shock. Yeah. Some of them shut down. Some of them were grieving uncontrollably. I thought it was important for our coaching staff to step up. Just tell them, hey, we don't understand this, I'm 59 years old. I don't understand this. So I can't imagine what's going through your mind, but, we want you to know that we are here for you. There's nothing that we can't talk about. So we had Sean Hazelton come in. He spoke a little bit. We had grief counselors come in. This is a few days later. The organization was great. The rink is everyone's safe spot, and they opened the rink up for us for just, the boys just to go out and play, have some fun. Hopefully for a few passing seconds, try and put this out of their 16-year-old minds. It's knowing that the minute they got off the ice and they got inside their own heads, it was going to be, forefront in their minds. So yeah, it's we're still dealing with it.
There's not much to say to follow up what Bob Jakubeck said in his interview. I can just continue to reiterate the compassion, love, and personally the relationship, that I was able to, forge with Colin's parents since my son played on that team last year. Tracy, his mother, even joined us on the moms episode that will probably be, hint, hint, don't want to bury the lead, but spoiler alert, we'll probably be adding the moms episode on the next best of next week. But just a heartfelt interview. And I think it serves as a great reminder to parents, coaches, and players. Cherish the time you have with each other and take a minute to, hug each other, get to know each other, and recognize the impact that you all make. And no one can externalize that and is a better ambassador for Colin Brown's legacy, besides his parents and his brother, than Coach Bobby Jack. So we'll, hopefully you'll go back and listen to the full episode, but 72 Acts of Kindness, find it on Facebook, and please consider, carrying on that legacy in your own way. This next episode, for those of you who regularly listen to the show, we had the opportunity, and when I say we, I mean me, had the opportunity to be live and in person at USA Hockey's coaching symposium for Level 5. Drew was not there. Drew felt it was more important to be out in Colorado, moving his son into Colorado State University. But Drew did join us from afar, and we had an awesome time at and that was the Royal We, because I was there. But had an awesome time at USA Hockey's Level 5 Symposium. And, huge thank you to Bob Mancini for making both Scott Pooch, Pollock, and Bob Jakubeck available. And then we actually had a chance, and this is where this clip is going to come into play, to talk with the heads or directors of both the Swedish and Finnish Ice Hockey Federation. Jon Lind of the Swedish Hockey Federation and Pyry Lukkarila of the Finnish Hockey Association also happened to be presenters at the Level 5 Symposium. And we had a great opportunity to really pick their brains and understand the challenges that are similar to what we have here in the North American model, both in America and Canada, for youth hockey, and also get some insight into some of the unique approaches that both Sweden and Finland take to youth hockey development and overall development. In some instances, it really feels counterintuitive when you take a step back and look at it and you start to really digest what they do over in Sweden and Finland. You start to shake your head in agreement and say, maybe there's some things that we should be bringing over here to the U.S. model. I don't want to bury the lead anymore, but have a listen to this clip as we talk to Jon Lind of the Swedish Hockey Federation and Pyry Lukkarila of the Finnish Hockey Association about youth hockey development model in their respective countries, and recognize that, once again, Drew did not go to Level 5. Here's the clip.
By some friends from over the pond. We've got Jon Lind from the Swedish Ice Hockey Association and Pyry Lukkarila, Finnish Ice Hockey Association. So we've got the Swedes and the Finns. Thank goodness we don't have any Canadians here. But
I love
this is
international flavor. We've
gone
international.
Yeah. I think we have a huge opportunity here to talk about and give folks back at home a really good perspective on youth hockey and how things are done in Sweden and in Finland, and where there's some synergy, where there's some differences, and really why. And maybe there's some things that we can learn as coaches and players and parents from our friends in Sweden and friends in Finland. So why don't we kick this off to Jon? Jon, why don't you start us off? Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then Drew and I would love to hear more about the Swedish Youth Hockey Association in progress.
Well, thank you, Jared, and thank you so much for having me. My name is Jon Lind, and I work as Director of Education and Research at the Swedish Ice Hockey Association. But I have a background as a player, played at a national team level as a junior, then moved on coaching for like 10 years, both juniors and seniors in Sweden. Been working with the association now for the time flies, but I guess it's like 8 years now. So that's my background.
Jon, tell us a little bit about the journey for a Swedish hockey player from, we start at 6U or mini mites here in the United States. So from that 5, 6, 7-year-old through, 18, how does that look? What does that progression look like? And what are some things that are unique to Sweden and fuel some of the success that you've all had in player development over the years?
Well, we started kind of the same age. Like, we have our Learn to Play program, which starts by the age of 5, and it runs then to the age of 7. And it's a program run by the association where we provide like coach education to all the clubs part of the program. We provide with education materials, and we support them in this learn to play program. So basically most of the players are starting their hockey journey in this program, and it's kind of looks like the same in most of the clubs. And from there we start to play hockey in teams, and in Sweden as well as in Finland we play on very small surfaces from the age of 8 to the age of under 12. So we play first 2 years we have 1/6 of the ice, so very small area games, and we think this is really important for getting more reps in, better decision making, and for coaches not to coach the game, let the players explore, develop long term. Then we move on to play 1/4 of the ice, and then we move on to play 1/3 of the ice. And then we start playing full ice when the players are U13. And one thing more that we have to promote long-term development in Sweden, we don't have tiers or divisions in youth hockey. So if you are, for example, U14, you play equally regardless of your level. We don't have levels. And we think this is important for long-term development because it cools down the system. We know that players are developing differently. We want to avoid looking at players as talents just due to physical maturity or psychological maturity. So we think this is a good way of actually cooling down and not having players stressed through the system. So the first time when you actually select players for a team is typically in Sweden for under 16. Then we have divisions in leagues. And then from U16 in Sweden, you move on to what we call is hockey high schools. We have 27 certified on boys side, 6 on female side. And this is programs tied to school where you can have hockey as a topic in school. So you can practice 3 times a week during day as a school topic. And then you play with your club in the weekends, or also practice in the evenings. This gives us opportunity to have more time on ice, develop kind of the individual skills more, and then you have team practice with decision making and everything in the evenings. So that's basically the big picture of Swedish ice hockey for youth.
Drew, you're muted there, bud.
I'm so sorry, John. I love that. What I was saying, why it was on mute there was we run practices and we'll start at a 1/6 of an ice sheet like that, and then progress to another drill where maybe we're a 1/4 of the ice and then the 1/3 of the ice, and then ultimately we're using the whole ice surface. But I love that your development model is focused around the ice surface, and then I love how that graduates until ultimately you're playing full ice at an older age than our kids are in the United States. I also like the no level aspect of it because you're watching the kids all at the same time. U14, for example, is a really interesting time, I think, for kids in development. Some have hit puberty, some haven't. And then that creates a whole dynamic with the player themselves. Why am I not growing? I'm looking at my peers, they're growing, I'm not, or I am growing, my peers aren't. And so I love that you don't break it down into different levels. And I like the word you use, talent. You don't look at them as talent, you look at them as a group, and you're developing the group at the same time. What a cool model.
So we don't often, so if you could see the room here, you would see that Jon and Peter are right across from each other. So it's good to have a Finn and a Swede across from each other. So my younger son actually has a Finnish goalie. He's played for us for the last 2 years. And so I'm going to be excited to talk to him and his mom. They just got back from Finland and they were there for midsummer. And before I go to you, Pyry, first of all, I want to make sure I'm pronouncing your name correctly, but I'm looking up trying to pronounce your name, and it says that it means snowstorm. That's awesome.
It is.
So that's a great way to lead it. He's like, yes, it is. Yeah. So we've got a hockey player from Finland whose name is literally Snowstorm. But tell us a little bit about the Finnish program and how that compares and competes with Sweden.
Hopefully we can compete. hopefully. And I think we have been competing pretty well. So so Lukkarila is the name, and I work as the head of coach development in Finnish Ice Hockey Association. Like our systems are really close, like similar. So I can like 90% is the same. So just from the get go, just to learn to play. For us, it's Lion Hockey School. So everything, our logo, probably not going to see it in the picture, but it's a lion in our flag also. So Lion Hockey School is where we kind of start in 5, 6, 7 years old. So the same thing that in Sweden. And then from U8 is the first teams, and from that it kind of builds up. For us, we have tiers before than Sweden has, but what normally happens is the goal is to find players and kids starting from different ages a right place to play in, so that and that, let's say a bigger club, they have AA, AAA, 1A teams, but they're practiced together, so that's a one team. That those games are just then put so that the kids are put in place where they can succeed, and you can play in different levels, and so it's not that you're put to AA team and you practice with that team. So it's normally it's one age group and same coaching and everything like that. So so basically it's the same. We play up until even in U13 we play part of the games in smaller ice, so 3-on-3 cross ice. So it's part of the season is 5-on-5 full ice, starting off from U11. Before that, it's cross ice, smaller ice games, and even in U11, U12, U13, part of the games are cross ice still. So U11, it's like half is cross ice, 3-on-3, half is 5-on-5 on big ice, and building from there. And then pretty much the same that in Sweden, we start counting goals. So the parents are seeing the score on the board first time when we're in U11. Before that, you're not going to see a score anywhere. And then the statistics, we're going to start showing statistics in U14. So you're not going to find whose kid has scored more goals than somebody else's before that. So just to kind of take it easy, because development takes time, and nowadays I feel like everybody's rushed to be really good at early ages, but a lot of times that's not how it goes. So you can be really good at hockey at 15 compared to other people because you've done a lot of hockey, but that means also that you haven't done necessarily a lot more other sports or being really active outside the rink. So that usually come and bites you when you're 18, 19, 20. Somebody or a lot of people actually comes to your level and passes you just because of you've been just focused on one sport. So that's what we want to kind of compete against, because we know from research and how player development goes that I've said this in multiple occasions where I've been speaking. I don't remember where I heard it, but I like the quote, like, you want your kid to be the best at U12 or U20 or in juniors or at 25. So pick one, because you're not going to have both, or it's extremely rare that you're going to see that the same player being really, you got these exceptional generational talents, but those are really far and few apart. So yeah.
Well, Jared, I two takeaways, and I just wrote them down because I didn't want to forget it or lose it. No scores until U11 and no stats until U14. So if you're a parent listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube, hear that out. They have a model that's working for them, and they don't even turn the scoreboard on until U11. They've got a model that's working for them. They're not even tracking stats until the players are 14 years old. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look at this too from a coaching lens, and as this model has developed since you both have been involved with your respective associations, has there been incremental changes? Has this been something that's been more generational? It's just been, this is the culture of Finnish and Swedish hockey? Or was there like a turning point, similar to what the United States had with our ADM, that there was a turning point where, you know, Hockey Sweden or Hockey Finland said, hey, we're going to do it this way? And then how do you get coaches? How did you get coaches on board, or is there consistency across ages? How does it work?
I can take that, but I think, at least in Finland, I think the same is in Sweden, because we can't afford to lose any kids. In Finland, we got total number of players that we have in the country, combining every player, is about 68,000. And we got under like 35,000 junior players. So if we would to do it the other way, building materials, cutting kids off, like, we wouldn't have the sport. Like, who would play it? So we have to take care of every kid. And also because we know, like, you cannot say from a 12-year-old or a 15-year-old that who's going to be a great player or not. You can take a wild guess, but honestly, you're not going to know. So it's as long as possible to as many as possible with the best possible quality coaching. And then let's see, when everybody's 25 and their brains are fully developed and they're adults, let's see then where we are.
Jon, anything you want to add to that from your own experience? Is it a cultural thing, or was there a point in time, to Jared's question, where you said, you know, this is what we're going to do from here on out?
No, I think it kind of develops organically within our system also. We have the same situation with not so many players, so we can't afford to lose anyone. So we kind of made changes accordingly, aligned with where new knowledge and new research came out. Like, for example, if you know it's better to play in small area games, we did research together with the Finnish Federation to find out the optimal surfaces. We also find out those kind of things to cool down the system. We don't have scoreboards either. We count the goals, but we don't have standings in leagues until they're U13 either. So it's kind of more organically developed as research could support our decisions. So we progressively try to be better all the time, just to have this long term. And to Pyry's point, I think the long-term development is about giving everyone the chance, because we never know who is going to make it in the end. And I used to say the example where there's research from an NHL draft, and we can assume that the scouts in NHL, around 400 of them fully employed, are the best at their job in the world because they're scouting for the best league in the world. I think we can agree on that. And they are following the players for 2 years after puberty. But when we look at the results from draft, they can only predict 1.5 round. After that, it's around the same amount of players from 3rd to 7th round who is making it to the NHL. So they can't even predict who is going to make it all the way. And 2 years ago, 15.7% of the players in NHL was undrafted. But sometimes we put it in the hands of volunteer parents, coaches, to try and select who is going to be the best. And a lot of times they do more harm than they do good, because what they typically see as talent is physical and biological maturation, not talent. So they mix up temporary physical ability for being talent, because they say, I can see if a player is talent or have hockey sense. But what they see is a fast player getting faster to the puck, which gives the player more time with the puck. But it's not hockey sense, it's not talent, it's just physical ability. And this is really hard to separate. So I think we need to build systems that are long-term and give players the time to develop.
St. Louis hockey families and business leaders, if you need custom gear that stands out and stands for something, it's time to meet 5B Designs. Founded by Shannon Brahini, a proud St. Louis mom and entrepreneur, 5B Designs is a woman-owned small business that brings purpose to custom apparel. Whether you're suiting up your youth or high school hockey team or leveling up your company's branded swag, 5B delivers top-notch quality with a personal touch. Need team stores? Not a problem. Corporate polos or event giveaways? They've got you covered. 5B makes it easy with fast turnaround, flexible service, and designs your players or employees will love to wear. Check them out at stores.inksoft.com/5B designs. That's the word 5. And if you are watching on our YouTube feed, go ahead and scan the QR code on the top right-hand corner of the screen and see what great gear and great service looks like. Real quick before we jump back in, if you're enjoying Too Many Men on the Mic, hit like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. It's a quick click for you, but it helps us grow the show and keep bringing you great hockey conversations. You can also follow us on Instagram by scanning the QR code on your screen. And be sure to download, follow, and rate the podcast on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartMusic, or wherever you get your podcasts. Or you can go directly to our website, www.tooManyMenOnTheMic.com. That's the number 2. Those small things from you help us keep delivering new guests, downloadable coaching content, and more from the rink. All right, back to the show.
Well, besides the accents that are clearly different than us here in the United States or Canada, you can really tell that no matter what country you're in, when you're associated with our game, with hockey and with youth hockey, there's a lot of passion. I thought it was fascinating to hear Jon and Pyry talk about, the constraints that they have because of just their population as compared to countries like the United States and Canada, and the way they, create a culture of development by, not forcing kids to, tier until they're much later on in their development. And it seems to be working. Not only are they producing high level hockey players here in North America from college, the juniors, and the NHL, but the Swedish and Finnish professional leagues are some of the best leagues in the world. And so I think it's just another opportunity for American and Canadian, the North American development models, and coaches and administrators to sharpen their tools and add different tools to their toolbox to help us develop, because no two kids are alike, no two programs are alike, and there's no one way to get to enjoying the sport that we play. And that's a great segue as we look here now into another fast growing segment of youth hockey and hockey in general, and that's the girls' sport, the women's sport. And Drew and I, over the past couple of years, have been coaching girls with a lot more frequency than we had when we were younger coaches, and really has come to the forefront here as we've gone into high school, and we've had 3 or 4 girls on the high school teams that we coach. And we thought it was just a great opportunity to bring in a expert when it comes to the girls game and how to develop great youth hockey players who are just so happen to be girls. And that's Rachel Bartlett, who's the head coach for the Chesterfield AA Lady Falcons. Rachel's also a close friend of mine who I've known for almost 20 years. She's a displaced Canadian here in St. Louis, along with a displaced Michigander. So we're kindred spirits. But she had some great insight and really some great, what I would call advice. The facts are right now are the majority of coaches are for youth hockey are men. And as we continue to see more and more girls raise their hand and put the skates on and want to play this sport, it's really important for coaches to understand the communication styles and the differences in communicating and coaching and understanding how girls sometimes are a little different than boys. And I thought a great poignant piece of advice that Rachel gave to Drew and I as coaches who are coaching both boys and girls. She said, boys feel good when they play good. Girls play good when they feel good. And that sounds like a little word salad, but it made so much sense. And a lot of what Rachel shared with us in this episode, Drew and I have taken to heart and have put into action on the ice. And some of our best moments this last year came from practice and games with our girl players. So have a listen, especially for you coaches out there who are coaching girls maybe more regularly than you have in the past. And let's see how we can grow this game for everyone. Here's Rachel.
Today, do not adjust your screen. There are 3 of us here today. We are really excited to welcome in our first live in studio. I don't know if we call her a guest. Do we call her a contributor? She probably knows more about hockey than both of us.
We cleaned before she came.
Absolutely. So with us today is Coach Rachel Bartlett of the Lady Falcons out of wonderful Chesterfield. Woo-hoo. For all of you that can see at home, wonderful Chesterfield. We're repping our friends to the west, AA program. Rachel's here to help us talk about and tackle some great topics today. But I guess before we get started, Rachel, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
Get a little closer to that microphone, Rachel. There.
Oh, yeah, rookie. I'm a rookie.
Well, just for our audience out there, give a little background for Rachel. Rachel, I've personally known Rachel for over 15 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Over 15.
We actually met, and this is going to sound funny. We met at a bar.
Yep.
Through mutual friends.
Yep.
There we go.
So our good friend, Tom Wiley, and Rachel's husband, Tony, are good friends. We met, and we basically bored the death out of Tom and his wife, my wife, and Rachel's husband, because all we did was talk about the wonders of being living on lakes. Yep. And being from Michigan. And you know, I get a lot of grief for sometimes my accent, but why don't you say a few words, or if you haven't figured it out at home, Rachel is from Sarnia, Ontario, across the mighty Blue Water Bridge. Yep. And has been in St. Louis how long?
Oh my God, since 1998. Oof. I came down here for school.
That's almost as long as you, Drew.
I know, right?
Came down for school and met a St. Louis boy, and they trap you.
I've heard that about a lot of folks in St. Louis. Well, Drew and I, our relationship from a hockey standpoint started with Rachel because she served with both Drew and I on the board for the Rockets. And she had a wonderful opportunity to go and really be a trailblazer and a starter for girls hockey out in Chesterfield. And so before we get into our topics, why don't you give us a little bit of background into I mean, everybody assumes you're from Canada, so you played hockey, and they're right in this case. But talk to us about your coaching career, just how things have just grown exponentially for you and the girls' game here in St. Louis, because I think it's something that's very exciting and very important for people to hear about.
Absolutely.
And our first topic here that we want to tackle here is talking about tryouts and evaluations. And what I like to start off whenever parents or players ask me and start talking about, you know, what do I do during this? I always say, look, hockey is part of and feeds into your identity. It does not define you. And here's what I mean by that. You play hockey and you're going to be a hockey player, hopefully for far longer than you're ever going to have to do another evaluation or tryout. And so no matter what team you play for, no matter what level you're at, no matter what coach you play for, your identity doesn't change. You're playing hockey or you're a hockey player. And as long as you keep that front and center, what I tell folks, and don't let the outcome define you, but let the outcome really propel you, then that should ease your anxiety. That being said, not everybody hears that.
Absolutely.
I was waiting for the ism. There's usually an ism that Jared will drop out there. There wasn't an ism so eloquently said, but yeah, I think it's a great place to start because not everybody knows the difference between an evaluation and a tryout.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, evaluations, I almost think of it as parent-teacher conferences, right? You have a couple of evaluations and a couple of touches throughout the year, one-on-one meetings. Those are more evaluations, whereas the tryout is a little bit more cutthroat. You're trying to make a team. You're trying to prove yourself. And that is where the anxiety, especially for the kids and the parents, is very, very high.
Yeah, I think if you look at things from an evaluation standpoint, you get a group of hockey-minded, hockey-centric coaches and directors and people who are evaluating. Their goal is not to create the best team. Their goal is to place you on a team where you're going to get the most development, the most touches. And when you get more touches, you have more fun.
Absolutely.
And you get better. And hockey is more fun the better you get at it. So I think it's but I think it's, tryouts are definitely a short term, a sprint.
Yeah.
And evaluations for me are much more of,
where you are on the curve and getting better on the curve.
Well, throughout the year, and we've had players where they just make the team, and by the end of the year, their development is incredible, and they go on and do great things.
Yeah, and so I think a key here, the three of us are coaches. We've all been a part of evaluations and tryouts. Let's talk about giving some tips to these players out there, especially those players who are, again, in the 90% of our audience. They're trying out, or they're going to these evaluations to get placed on a team, whether it's a A-level team, a B-level team, a C-level team. What are the tips that we can share with them on not just how to prepare, but what are coaches really, really looking for?
I think a big part of it is getting the kids back on the ice before, make sure that it's not the first time they've touched the ice in 6 months.
Yep.
I think even just public skating, you don't have to pay for, a lot of one-on-ones. Just get them out there and enjoy it. Let them have fun. Let them chase their brother or sister around the public skating, obviously with safety. But it is a case of just get them out there, because you can tell within, the way that we evaluate is you can really tell that you're trying to figure out the top and the bottom kids, and the kids that just don't have the quickness or the lateral edges or the speed, those are quickly placed within, I'd probably say, the first 10 minutes of that lower level.
Yep.
Yeah, we talked, I think it was on last week's show, a little bit about that. And just, if you're a youth hockey organization and you're thinking about the year and how you want to start, just the importance of pre-skates.
Yeah.
Not everybody has been on the ice. Kids are playing baseball, lacrosse. We had a different episode a couple weeks ago where we had players call in from a variety of sports that they were doing this summer and how those skills and activities translate over into hockey, while also providing them some fun during the summer.
Yeah.
So pre-skates, I agree, huge part of that. And I love what you said about the top and bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in the moment, whether it's you're in a tryout or in an evaluation, I think the biggest thing that I can preach, I say this to my players, is consistency.
Yeah.
You can go out there and because you feel there's a pressure, you feel you have to do something. It's kind of like that. What do you do when no one's watching? And I think that's another ism. There you go. What do you do when no one's watching? It's kind of like if you're only going out there and you're playing a certain way because you feel there's some pressure. What are you doing, like shift to shift? Or what are you doing if there's a drill component to the tryout or the evaluation? What are you doing when it's not your turn?
Absolutely.
Every coach is watching that. And I think it's a matter, especially when you're getting to some of these higher level teams through the tryout process, most of the kids have relative skill levels. And so you have to like recognize that there are things that you do without having the puck on your stick or without being in the spirit, the play. How do you come into the rink? What are you doing in between drills? How are you interacting with your teammates? These are things that coaches pick up on. They talk about it. I've been in that room.
Well, and then during the tryouts, a lot of times we will have a scrimmage at the very end. And that's where you really pick up, like, it's one thing. I think the stats are, it's only the puck is on your stick such a short period of time in every game, right? What is the player doing to support their teammate on and off the ice, right? So are they getting open? Are they making the effort to get open for the puck? Are they on the bench rolling their eyes and saying what that player should have done, right? The negativity, the positivity on the bench. The bench is the engine to the whole team. The bench drives the game.
Write that down.
That's an ism right there.
No, that's fine.
No. We have a rule on this show. We're all thieves.
Exactly. I love the ism.
Right?
Drew's taking that. The bench is the engine.
It is the engine of the team. So if the engine is positive and everybody's moving in the right direction, it's fantastic. If you have, and another thing, a difference between the girls and the boys is I really think the girls have to feel good in order to play good. The boys have to play good in order to feel good. Right?
Interesting.
So basically with the girls program, with the girls culture, if you have, 18 other players and teammates on the bench cheering for you, you then feel like you can make a mistake. And I tell the kids, go out, make mistakes. Don't just stay in your comfort zone, right? Go out, make mistakes. If you have a bench who is rolling their eyes and they're negative and just, kind of beating each other down, then you play very tight. You play like you don't want to make a mistake, and you're so worried and you're so scared. And the ability to see these kids just go out there and support each other with girls hockey leads to a lot of Taylor Swift songs and, and overnights for sure at the 12U level, right?
Yeah.
And as they get older, the friendships, you see the girls in middle school kind of go fluid through schools, but it's the hockey friends that keep each other supported.
I told you she was a better coach than us, Drew.
Well, I just love that you're touching not only on things that are happening on the ice, especially when you're talking about away from the puck. I'm a sucker for a back checker. Every time I see a back checker, I'm
doesn't
like,
it do your heart good? Like
it just does. Love it. But you're also talking about things like attitude, intangibles, things that have nothing to do with putting on a pair of skates and just you as a person and you as a good teammate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's be honest here. Drew likes back checkers because he's a lazy defenseman. He wants to point fingers at the forwards.
What are you talking about? I did my job.
And it's always the goalie's fault.
I had my guy.
That's right.
Me.
I love that you said girls need to feel good to play better. Boys
are the opposite.
And I don't know if I almost think that might be more healthier no matter if you're a boy or a girl.
I agree.
Right.
And we have been in situations where you have one or two kids on the bench, and it's especially can be tough to manage in high school, because in high school it's kind of like this mixing bowl of different skill levels. You'll have AAA Central States kids, and you'll have some B level players, and the great teams have the higher level kids, to your point, supporting all of their teammates.
Everybody.
And sometimes that's hard because you get frustrated and you realize that, hey, you want to win this game just as much as your club game, and this person may not quite have completed their journey or as far on their journey as you are. And so I think that whether you call it toxicity, trying to get rid of all the toxins and keep that bench as positive as possible, that falls on the coaches. But coaches are going to put together teams. They're not going to want a player on that team who's going to make that job even harder. That's a job you're going to have. But as a coach, I know that's already going to be the hardest. The hockey part's the easy part. Right. Managing the team and the chemistry and the personalities, that's not something I want to make harder on myself.
Absolutely.
By bringing a jerk on the team.
Yep. Rachel, I've got a question for you. Compete and consistency. We talked about it at the beginning of this segment, but are you watching the kids shift to shift? And what I mean is, are you looking for that consistency shift to shift? Do you notice if a kid's giving a really great shift and then maybe he's backing off? Does that come into play in your in evaluations?
What I find, again, you may find a lot of those kids are nervous too, right? So if they are very nervous, they'll play very, very tight. And so you'll see all of a sudden you're thinking, I'm not too sure about this kid. By the end, especially maybe at the second tryout,
Right.
they look great.
Right. They warm up.
Yes, they
Yep.
just warm up. And again, trying to keep the evaluations just positive by running, at the scrimmage. We usually do a scrimmage at the very end. So by running, a positive bench and staying on the bench, I actually like to get a look at what happens to the kids when they're on the bench. How positive, how are they cheering for each other?
Yep.
Or are they just rolling their eyes thinking, well, why didn't they do that? Right.
Well, and we just talked about time and being nervous. Is there an optimum number of days, in your opinion, on a evaluation or tryout? Is it 2 skates? Is it 3 skates for you? What do you think's the magic number?
We do 2 camps and then 2 tryouts, and I like those. And I mean, camp, you're supposed to just kind of get everything starting to feel your best by the time you do the tryout. But in some ways too, we are looking. We see the type of energy the player gives, the type of skill level, the aggressiveness in the corners, the type of breakout. Do they know position where they're supposed to be? So we're really looking at everything.
Yeah, I think that's a key for. We mentioned it before. Players have to recognize every time they touch the ice and they're in front of eyes.
Absolutely.
That you treat it like a game.
Yep.
I think you made a comment about nervousness, and I have been on the ice in evaluations and tryouts in a supporting role. I think it's important for those coaches and directors and organizations to recognize if a kid is maybe nervous or there's some anxiety, go talk to them.
Yep.
Hey, man, go talk to them. What do you, and don't give them hints on what to do. Say, hey, how you feeling? What are you gonna do next shift?
Yep.
Talk to them and get them feeling comfortable.
I also like to see the leadership too of those majors.
Absolutely.
Are they making the minors feel comfortable? Are they cheering them on? Are they going out of their, or are they just talking to their other major friends?
Right.
And clicking up. They need to kind of open up, and that tells me what type of leadership that you have on your team too. And that's a healthy team.
We've been talking here now for about 10, 11 minutes, and not once have we talked about stride, crossovers. What we're talking about are the things that make you a better teammate, the things that should be driving. Bob Mancini says it best. What's the best trait any hockey player can have is love for the game.
Yep.
And I think those intangibles, the compete level, the leadership, and are you picking people up versus, knocking them down? That's stuff that as a player, you absolutely just have that in the forefront of your mind, and you will be successful no matter what team you land on. Remember, it's about, you're a hockey player, you're playing hockey, it doesn't define you.
But what I'm really hearing you say is focus on the things you can control.
Absolutely.
Right.
And that's a great segue to talk about our parents.
How much time do we have?
We got 5 minutes.
I have fantastic parents. I got to tell you.
Absolutely.
I really do have great parents.
And I would say, again, it's like the 99-1 rule. 99% of families involved in hockey, and even that 1%, they're not out there. It's just, as a parent, it's about supporting the effort, not the end result or the performance. And I think you got to have some trust. You got to trust that by the end of this process, whether it's a tryout or an evaluation, that one, your son or daughter is going to be in the best situation for them to continue having fun on their hockey journey. And two, if they aren't exactly on the perfect team, well, they got a lifetime ahead of them.
Yeah.
and there's always some positives to find from that.
I think, and too, as a parent, I think you can control what you can control, right? Yep. If you feel that your kid has been misplaced, then you go out there and have the best season you can. I mean, you do the best you can and be that leader that they're looking for, and try and prove everyone wrong.
Yeah, I just want to chime in here with, the trust the process. I heard us just talk about a minute ago. But if you're a new coach with a new group of parents, some parents might look at trusting the process, and the outcome of that process is just simply winning.
Yeah.
Winning games. And so if we're losing games, then I can't trust the process. And that might mean that, maybe my kid's not going to develop. Maybe I perhaps have the wrong coach. So I want to dispel that fallacy, because hockey is a journey and it's a development path. and you develop throughout the year. So what happens in your first month of games does not dictate how you're going to finish the season.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've all been part of teams that have had rough starts.
Yep,
rough starts. I had a son who was on. I have a son. He was on a team that was really, really bad at the beginning of the season. They went to nationals and went to the semis that year.
Wow.
And so it's not only just a journey on your time of playing this sport, but it's like the journey sometimes is happening throughout the season. And so I just feel like in my heart of hearts, like winning is a part of development, and there is an aspect to winning that helps with developing. Chasing the win is what I'm looking for.
Yeah. I like to put the team somewhere in the middle where we win half the games, lose half the games, and see how we develop throughout the season. And by the end of the season, just really take those stats and see how everything's going. You have so much stuff out your huddle right now that can show you all the shooting that you're doing and the face-off wins and all that stuff.
And I love what you just said, because you almost it's better to see how your team responds to a little adversity.
Absolutely.
Right?
If you win all of your games, it's a bit of a waste of a season. You were kind of misplaced, right?
You're not going to find too many people at an ice rink who are more excited about being at the ice rink and coaching young people than Rachel. And I hope that came through in her interview. She's a great hockey coach, period, full stop, who just happens to be a female hockey coach and a former female hockey player. And if you're coaching, like I said, young girls at the 8U, 6U, 10U level, it's so important that we continue this upward trend of having to be one of the fastest growing aspects of our game. We just saw 4 more teams added to the PWHL, and that's going to grow. That's going to continue to grow. So super exciting. And if you get a chance, if you're out there at Maryville especially, and you see Rachel running around with her coach's gear on, say hi to her, say, hey, I heard you on Too Many Men on the Mic with Coach Drew and Coach Jared. You'll bring a smile to her face, and you'll probably make her late to get on the ice because she'll want to talk your ear off. But Rachel's awesome. One of the things that we do here, and that was one of our missions when we started this podcast, was to give a voice to all youth hockey organizations across the country, and not just in the traditional NHL markets like Boston, Detroit, Chicago, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, and Philly, but all around the country. And Drew, I'll take my hat off to him, even though he didn't go to level 5, has done a phenomenal job of outreach. And we've talked to over 20 different youth hockey organizations around the country, many of them in markets like Boise, Idaho, or Portland, Oregon, or Las Vegas, places where you don't typically think of ice hockey. And what's fascinating is that's where the game is growing so fast and so quickly. We had an opportunity to talk to Carlos Villa, who's one of the coaches for the Pensacola Junior Ice Flyers down in Pensacola, Florida. And it was just a fascinating conversation as we looked at his journey from New Jersey down to Pensacola, and being able to coach the game he loves, and also coach with his dad, who is also down there in Pensacola with him, as they're growing that organization and really overcoming some of the challenges of not having a lot of ice rinks nearby. And so there's a little bit of extra travel for some of these teams to go play other organizations across the Panhandle and into Georgia and even into Nashville. But just a thriving young youth hockey organization that just so happens to have an SPHL team there in the Pensacola Flyers. So have a listen to Carlos as he talks a little bit about the journey that he's been on and the growth and how Pensacola Junior Ice Flyers are thriving there down in the Sun Belt. Have a listen.
Yeah, Carlos. So
absolutely, guys.
Yeah, tell us about Pensacola Junior Ice Flyers youth hockey. Tell us a little bit about the organization. How many teams are in your organization, from 6U all the way up to 18U, and is it girls and boys?
Yeah, so it's girls and boys. We got 6U all the way up to 18U. Most of our teams here are pretty much house teams. We do have some travel teams. We have this year we have 2 12U travel teams. We have a 14U travel team. We have a 10U travel team. And then we also have 6U house, 8U house, 10U house, 12, 14, 16, and 18U, all house teams. And those house teams, we do go, we shoot to compete in about 3 to 4 tournaments a year. You know, I know I am speaking, you know, for my team. I actually am the head coach of the 8U team as well. I actually convinced my father to do it with me. My parents moved down here in 2021, and then I followed them in 23. So I convinced my dad last year. I said, "Hey, you know, let's just go coach. Let's do it together." And we started coaching the 8U team together. And we try to shoot for about 3 to 4 tournaments. We got some great tournaments lined up this year, and I mean, we're growing. We're a really growing organization. You know, unfortunately, we're a little handicapped in terms of ice time, as ice is hard to come by in Pensacola. We're trying to find a way to build a full-time ice facility here. It's you know, it's a little bit difficult. We're trying to find a way to get it done. But right now, we play out of the Bay Center, the Pensacola Bay Center, which is where the big Ice Flyers, the SPHL team, the Ice Flyers play out of. So we share that ice facility with them. I mean, we're a growing organization, and this is my first year in the coach in chief spot. So I'm looking forward to helping the organization as much as I can. I'm a young guy. I plan on being here for a long time, so I'm going to try to help the organization grow as much as possible.
Well, Jared, I got to dig into this for just a second. You got dad and son dynamic coaching together. So Carlos, what happens there? I mean, do you have a great practice plan ready for your teams, and then your dad looks at it and goes, "We're not doing that"?
Well, so you know, it's funny enough. You know, I kind of went to him last year. I said, "Hey, you know, I think this would be a lot of fun. I think we should do it." And you know, I played hockey for a long time, and you know, my dad, you know, growing up in Jersey City, he didn't play a lot of organized hockey, but he was on skates at times. And so he's not the best skater, but he's like, "Listen, I'll just go out there and you kind of just direct me on what we're doing. And, you know, I'll do my best." And he does a great job with the kids. The kids love him, and he has an absolute blast doing it. But it definitely, once in a while, we'll talk about, you know, practice plans and what we want to do. And, you know, maybe we'll have some disagreements here or there. But other than that, it's honestly so much fun. It's such a blast to get to do it with him and get to do something together. I'm really enjoying it. I'm having a blast.
I mean, you get to be out there on a sheet of ice with a bunch of 8-year-olds and your dad. And I imagine that your dad probably communicates very well with the 8-year-olds if he's anything like my dad, which is, you know, they just seem to have a, you know, especially if he's a grandfather like my dad is, they just seem to have that appreciation and love. And I think that's got to be a huge help for you. You know, as we look here, it looks like you guys have about 12 teams total. So probably anywhere from 120 to 150 skaters in your organization.
Yeah. Give or take there. And like I said, we're actually growing in numbers each year. And unfortunately, we have a learn to play program that we also do. And, you know, right now we have a lot of people on the wait list, a lot of people trying to get in and get signed up to do it. But, you know, with the restriction on ice time, it's tough to get every kid in. So there are kids, unfortunately, that, you know, we're having to, you know, turn away and have them try again next year because we're so handicapped in terms of ice time. The game has really grown in the South, like big time. It really has grown a lot. People are interested in hockey. The Ice Flyers is selling out all the time. And surprisingly enough, I mean, last year they struggled. The pro team, I'm saying, you know, they struggled a lot, and they still were selling out. And people enjoy the game, and a lot of people are moving down here. I mean, Florida is rapidly growing. We have a lot of people moving from the Northeast, and people want to play hockey, and they're looking for hockey. So it's really growing. So I'm really hoping that, you know, the more exposure to the program, the bigger the program gets, we can finally convince the city and convince the county that a rink is necessary. This is what we need.
There's a lot of threads to pull on there. And I'm glad that we did our pre-flight here on the show. Real quick, you know, if you're going down that path on the rink, Drew and I have some experience doing that here in the St. Louis area, and we actually know some folks who have built rinks in Florida that are located here in St. Louis. So we could take that offline, but I want to make sure, you know, jot that down so that we don't forget about it, because When I hear that you've got one facility, you're turning kids away, I know that's got to be so hard for you as a coach and for the parents. You're playing on base, and I got to imagine that there's a pretty fair number of transplant families, with different service member, stationed on rotation. Do you get a lot of support from the base? Do you get a lot of members who are, like you said, transplants with the military? Is there any type of relationship there, and maybe an appetite to grow that existing facility?
So there isn't much relationship with the base. The rink itself, the base center, is actually located off base. It's actually located right in downtown Pensacola. And the Ice Flyers itself, it doesn't have too much relation to the military and to the obviously the team name is named after the Blue Angels. I mean, it's Blue Angel Night, and we do a lot of support with those guys. But we do get a lot of military families, military members that are stationed down here or working down here, that they will sign their kids up from hockey, and then unfortunately they get moved off and they have to go do something else, and they do move. And that is unfortunate because I've had the experience even last year. I met a ton of great people, great dads, great coaches, great kids. And, they had to move and they had to go elsewhere. So it does, unfortunately stink. But let me tell you, every single one of them that I talked to said we all want to come back. And that's one thing about, Pensacola and about, being down here and the organization, they love it and people are happy. And like I said, it's growing. So people want to come back here once they wrap up duty and wrap up, whatever contract they're serving. And they eventually want to come back to Pensacola. So like I said, it's a growing place. It's a beautiful place. And, the game is rapidly growing. We have a street hockey rink that's literally right on the sand down at the beach. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Pensacola Beach. By far the most beautiful beach in the country. It's gorgeous.
Humble brag.
Right on the beach.
Humble brag.
Not a big deal.
Humble brag. MBD.
Not a big deal. It's unbelievable. Let me tell you. You come to this beach. My friends make jokes all the time because I used to say you're swimming with dolphins, and that's no exaggeration. You're literally swimming with dolphins.
I mean, I don't know. Jersey Shore may have something to say about all that.
Let me tell you, I've been to the Jersey Shore. The Jersey Shore can't compete.
Siesta Key. I don't know. Siesta Key's not too
I don't know. Let me tell you, I rank right up there with them.
Well, you mentioned street hockey, and that actually was going to lead into my kind of a follow-up there. Drew and I, if you've listened to the show, and if you haven't, then, get with the program, Carlos, get on the show. We were a part of a youth hockey organization on the board, not just as coaches, for the better part of a decade. And ice is a challenge in so many markets, even traditional markets like St. Louis. And what we were doing is we were having street hockey, ball hockey, floor hockey, and there's opportunities to partner with schools to help grow the game. I was actually listening to a show today on Sirius XM where they were talking about the NFL is introducing flag football, and it's probably going to be a freaking professional flag football league. And, and they see it as, they see it as just building their own fan base. My question is, the NHL is kind of in and out when it comes to the non-ice hockey. But do you also have any, connection relationships with the Lightning or with the Panthers? The NHL is also trying to build their fan base, and I think they might be trying to get a team in Houston or a team in Atlanta, and Pensacola is not too far from either of those cities if you look at a map. So, do you have those type of relationships, and what other things, aside from the street hockey or even roller hockey, are you guys trying to do to get kids out there with a stick in hand and learning the game?
Well, yeah. So, since I've been with the organization, we haven't done anything in particular with the Panthers or the Lightning. Tampa's about 6.5 hours from Pensacola, and Fort Lauderdale you're looking at about 10.5, maybe even 12 in some cases. It's a bit of a ride. Florida's a big state, so we haven't had any real opportunity to do a lot with them. I'd love to do stuff with them. I think, like I said, we're a very young organization. We got a great board this year. Our president, vice president, we have a great group. And I think, our board as a whole, as a group, really wants to develop the kids, develop the organization, and grow the organization long term. So I think, that may be something we explore down the road. We're trying to do more with the SPHL team that's here, the Ice Flyers. We're trying to do more with those guys. As far as, trying to get, sticks in people's hands, I know that the beach, like I said, the roller rink down at the beach has its own league now. They have a ball hockey league and a roller hockey league that they have consistent people playing every Sunday. They play a lot on Sunday mornings. They do clinics for the kids over the summer where they have roller hockey clinics, street hockey clinics down at the beach. So, there's a lot of opportunity. And I think that, hopefully, like I keep going back to it, but hopefully with the creation of a rink, I think that will really blossom and really open up the opportunity to hold, summer camps, hold, birthday parties where people could go ice skate and be like, wow, I really like this. This is something I want to continue to do. I want to try skating. I want to try playing hockey. I think little things like that make such a big difference. And, hopefully, the creation of the rink will really grow it and grow the league even more and grow the love of the game even more, because it really is the best game in the world, without a doubt.
Sounds like you've got some incredible demand down there. That is just awesome. And, no surprise. Look at the last handful of years of Stanley Cup winners. I mean, it's been driving a lot of excitement for the game. I guess I want to come back to coaching real quick. Carlos, you said you're a young organization, and it sounds like you're newer to the organization too. How did you become the coach in chief of the organization down there?
Well, that's actually a funny story. So like I said, I joined the league last year, to coach the 8U team. I volunteered. I'm only 25. And I just moved down here in 2023. And, I joined the league in 2024, 2025 season to coach. And then, I get a call on July 4th on Independence Day. And, I'm having a good time. The drinks are flowing. Everybody's happy. And I get a call, and basically the summary of the call was, listen, we need you to do this. And, we need you to sign up and do this. We need somebody to take this position on, and we'll help you out, and we'll give you guidance. And Lindsay, who's our registrar, she's phenomenal. And she's the one I worked really close with last year on getting a lot of things done for the league. And she called me and she's like, listen, we need you to do it. And when Lindsay said, we need you to do it, I looked at my dad, and he's like, my dad was actually president of Little League back when we were growing up in Connecticut. He's like, you're going to get a lot of phone calls. He's like, good luck. Like, you're going to get a lot of phone calls. Yeah. And, but I signed up, and it's been tough, but it's been a lot of fun. Like I said, we have a wonderful board. We have a great group, who's all, we all have the same objective to growing the league and getting everybody in great shape and really growing the organization. So, I think we got a lot of great things coming down the road that I think will really help, hockey in the Panhandle. We're trying to get a league down here, trying to get consistent travel games. It's like I said, ice is tough to come by, but I think the more ice sheets we get down here, the bigger the league will grow, because hockey is here to stay. So I'm excited about it.
Well, great conversation with Carlos about the Pensacola Junior Ice Flyers. I think it just goes to show that hockey is a sport that travels. And not only have we seen it travel on the youth hockey level with people coming from places like New Jersey down to Pensacola, or Boston over to Eastern Idaho, which was another organization we talked with. But look at the NHL and, the teams right now that are thriving and winning Stanley Cups. You've got Carolina this year, Tampa, Florida, Las Vegas, these non-traditional hockey markets. But as the passion for this game has continued to grow, and as people have migrated across this country to different time zones, different area codes, different zip codes, the game travels with them. And that's what's so awesome about our sport here in the United States and what's growing at the game. I mean, the Red Wings, for instance, couldn't go a show without mentioning the Red Wings. Went out and got themselves a first-round draft choice and drafted a Texas-born player in the first round. So just awesome to see the story of Pensacola, and actually Carlos's personal story about there's a Northeastern guy heading down south and taking his love of hockey to help that organization thrive and continue to grow. This last clip that we're bringing from the first half of our season is one that I think is really, really important. Drew and I had the chance to interview Jeff Brown. Jeff is a former professional college, junior hockey player out of the Toronto area. In fact, his brother, Connor Brown, is currently an NHL player. Jeff went a different route when it was time to move on from the game from an on-ice standpoint. He used his education and he created an initiative and a company called the Mindful Hockey Club. And a little bit of what Jeff's mission is he wanted to pursue a passion of teaching hockey holistically. His goal was really to get with young athletes and recognize and control the negative self-talk and the fear that, and anxiety that players and whether you're a hockey player, a soccer player, on the debate team, the anxieties and fears that young people have today. Some of the challenges that young people face, I can't even comprehend as a 50-year-old hockey coach, especially with social media and just the constant barrage of comparison, both on the ice, off the ice, in the classroom, off the classroom. And Jeff took a look at this and he said, hey, I want to take my experience. I want to educate myself on how to communicate and help players not just succeed physically and athletically, but train them from a mental and from a holistic standpoint to not just be the best hockey players they can be, but to be the best people they can be. And I can't think of a better clip to finish off the first half of our best of episode than to listen to Jeff Brown from the Mindful Hockey Club. Have a listen.
Thank you very much. This started for me as a passion project. After I finished playing pro hockey over in Europe, I got into kind of healthcare. I got into sales and was working, and that's what I do now. I work in mergers and acquisitions for a healthcare company. But my part-time gig and my passion project is the Mindful Hockey Club, and it's really kind of snowballed for me. It's been really great. It started out as, for me, I wanted to get into coaching, but with my work schedule, it wasn't in the cards for me to be a head coach or assistant coach, in GTHL here in Toronto. So what I decided to do is to coach privately, but I wanted to do it from a more holistic perspective. So, for me throughout my career, mindfulness and focusing on my mindset was something that I didn't discover until I was late in my 20s over in Europe and started to, work on things like breathing technique and having a mental strategy and coping with my own challenges. So, now that I'm able to kind of help out the next generation of hockey player and start to the same way that we work on our slap shot and work on passing, we got to start working on our mental game, and just happy to be a part of it. And it's been great so far.
I'm taking a look at your hockey DB, your lead prospects here. It looks like you did university in Canada. They call it university in Canada, Drew, by the way. And you started off, it looks like you were in London at Western Ontario. And then finished up in Toronto. And I'm assuming, was this part of your academic journey aside from playing hockey? I mean, it feels like a big part of this catalyst is doing a lot of self-reflection and seeing how you were able to propel your success. But were there external factors? Did you have a person who helped you along this journey that you were like, hey, this is another way I can give back?
Yeah, well, to be completely candid, throughout my junior hockey and OHL career, I dealt with some pretty severe anxiety, and it was something that was undiagnosed and something that I just learned to live with, and a lot of it had to do with just basically getting too focused on the results and where I wanted to go in hockey and start playing pro, and I started having like these kind of panic attacks that came on in my last year of hockey in the OHL. And, looking back, it was a pretty scary part of my life because I didn't know how to handle what was happening and was getting short of breath before games. I was getting scared to even go to the rink. And this is the game that I've played since I was 4 years old. If there's anything I'm good at it's hockey at this point in my life. Right. And so, that being a very tough challenge for me, it actually led to, me being able to understand a lot about anxiety, a lot about, fear of failure, a lot about, getting too focused on results and not focusing on, staying in your process and playing free and trying to get yourself to a place when you're an 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid. You don't need to, put the weight of the world on yourself, right? Everyone else is doing that for you. But, my self-talk and everything else, it was all screwed up. So, those challenges and, working through those throughout my 20s led me to a place now where, I've learned so much about how, using your breath to get back to the present moment, like how helpful that is. I have players that have reset routines that we build, and they're using those in between shifts. If they have a tough shift, get scored on, instead of having negative self-talk, we'll analyze that shift. We'll do some breathing, and then we have a trigger phrase, and let's get back into the next shift. And these are all things that I've built throughout my 20s and now into my 30s. And I'm just happy to be able to use some of the challenges in my life, turn them around and give them back and give tools to the younger generation.
It sounds almost meditative, and I don't do meditation. I have some friends that have tried it. But transcendental meditation, they talk about your mantra and being able to find that word to find focus. It sounds like you're using some very similar techniques and taking some of the mental aspect and creating an actual physical trigger or like, are they saying the word? Is it thinking the word? This type of stuff fascinates me. And especially after some of the topics we've had here recently. And as Drew and I are coaching, teenage boys and girls, and anxiety is front and center with everyone. This type of stuff I think is where we've got to dive into. Hockey's the easy part, like you said.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And these are skills that, it's great to practice. And that's why, hockey is so similar to the game of life, right? Learning to be a good teammate, learning how to, deal with your nervous system when you get highs and lows and all the excitement of hockey and the big lows when you lose a game or you turn over a puck. And that's the thing. We need to realize that, it's hard because it's like, especially I live in Toronto, right? Youth hockey in Toronto is absolutely insane. So, I have parents all the time coming to me with all kinds of, different scenarios. But I think like a great way for me to kind of phrase it for you and for your listeners is kind of, what I do is I work with two things. One is a mindset and one is like mindfulness. So the difference is like a mindset would be your overall framework to how we approach challenges, setbacks, the belief systems that we carry, right? Like a growth mindset versus like a fixed mindset. And mindfulness would be what I talked about your breath, using your breath, the practice of being present, being aware of some of the things that you're doing, frustration when it comes up, you're noting it, you're not judging it, trying to calm your nervous system. And, together, mindfulness, it supports building a strong mindset. So that's why those two things are kind of interchangeable. And, it's something like you said before, when it comes to, boys versus girls hockey and the youth today, it's like, yeah, I definitely see that there's a little bit of an elevated kind of, anxiety is a word that I think something that we understand more now. And then, something that, whether it's because of social media or a couple other things, it seems to be, at the forefront of in a lot of families. Right. So, when it comes to girls, I find that the principles of mindfulness and mindset, they apply to obviously both guys and girls, but how they're communicated can differ, right? Boys can often respond well to kind of direct, challenge-driven language, right? Well, girls kind of benefit more from relational coaching. You're creating trust with them, emphasizing like a team connection, reinforcing confidence through encouragement. At a younger age as girls, I think they can sometimes internalize setbacks more deeply. So kind of creating that space through talking and to allow them to process, challenges, that can be helpful. So, yeah, there's so much, so much juice in this type of coaching and work. So, I'm really hoping that, in the next 5 to 10 years that we start to integrate this type of coaching into kind of your everyday, coaches kind of, tactics, right? The same way that they go through strategy about a game, we need to be looking at how that we're, building the next generation of not only hockey players, but young individuals and young people.
Well, if you're a parent or player or coach of a player who feels that they could use Jeff Brown's services, reach out to Drew and I at jared@tooManyMenOnTheMic.com or drew@tooManyMenOnTheMic.com, and we'll get you in contact with Jeff. We actually had the ability to connect Jeff with a couple of players here locally in St. Louis, and the feedback that we've gotten from those players and their parents has just been phenomenal. And we really take our hat off to Jeff, who's looking at things from a personal standpoint, beyond just, scoring goals and assists and winning hockey games. So, well, Grant, I can't believe we're past a year with this silly little idea that we had. And I think Drew's going to be back next week and we'll be able to do the second part to this best of together. But I just want to say to you, recorded for everyone to hear, because I know we give you such a hard time and a lot of grief. Thank you for the bottom of my heart. You've been a great person to get to know, a great person to work with, to learn from. And I'm proud to say that, I consider you a friend, and you've been instrumental to the success of our show. So thank you for that. You're not going to get another one of those for another year. So make sure you put that on your playlist.
Yeah, I'll put it in my, same goes for you guys. And I'm proud and happy to have joined the hockey community a little bit and learn more about the sport.
This year really you are getting on the ice this summer.
I am. Yes.
We're absolutely doing it. And you are going to come to a gig.
Yes.
And we will golf together. But before we go here, I know I speak for Drew when I say to everyone, all of our friends, family, people that we've come in contact with at the rinks around the country, not just here in St. Louis, and everybody who said yes to coming on the show. We could not be more grateful for your support. I don't think there's a way for us to express how excited we are. And we're really starting to find our groove, I think. And year one was a success for us. And we think that we brought a lot of value to the community. We're going to grow this community in year two. We're going to have a lot of fun, from youth hockey here in St. Louis and mid-states hockey here in St. Louis to all around this country and even the world. We've been able to talk to people in Sweden and Finland and Canada. I want to try and get somebody from Australia on. We've talked to somebody from England. So exciting times here. Thank you to everybody who's helped made this possible. Very, very special thank you again to you, Grant. And even though he's not here with me, I've told him this before, but I can't thank my partner, Coach Drew, enough for coming up with this crazy idea, asking me to go along with him on this journey. Here's to another 55 more episodes. Thanks, everybody. I think that's a wrap on this show. We'll see you next week when this plays. I hope everybody had a great Canada Day in Canada, and everybody enjoy the 4th of July Independence Day. Be safe out there. He shoots, he scores. Grant, play the song.